What's going on, everybody? Doug here, and welcome to a special triple feature review roundup episode of the John River Light podcast. As mentioned, my name is Doug Jones. I am one of the host, producers, and creators of the John River Light podcast. We are now back from South by Southwest. Please forgive us. We are playing catch up. It's been a crazy past couple of weeks. We have so much. We have so much stories to tell you about South by Southwest, from screenings to celebrity encounters to parties. I mean, you name it. We have a lot to recap for you all. We've been back now about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. And, we've just been kind of playing catch up with work and personal stuff and, of course, local screenings. So we have definitely a few episodes to kind of fill you in on our amazing experience at Austin, South by Southwest. But I'll save that until Nick and myself are reunited on the show, hopefully next week. But in the meantime, I do actually have a South by Southwest screening to review for you all today on this special review. Again, not overdue, but on time, I would say, this time around. Review run-up episode. I have my review of Death of a Unicorn, which I saw at South by Southwest. And, of course, The Penguin Lessons and A Working Man. Three very different, probably used this by now, three very different movies to review for you all on this week's review run-up episode. I feel like the past couple weeks I've been saying on every review run-up episode that I'm like, yeah, I have three or two very different movies. This is the case for sure. I got very different movies for you all this week, but we are so glad to be back. Hope you've been following on the YouTube page and our social media. We've been posting a lot more footage and coverage on there. I still have a few things to upload. Please bear with me. Got a few more Q&A and panels that I re-recorded for coverage, so stay tuned for that. But so far, I think you've been loving our reviews and our reactions from South by, of course, kind of our day in the life vlogs here and there. So we appreciate all the feedback we've been getting and really all the support you give us when we were there. It just meant the world to us. So thank you all for getting us there, but also just for kind of like supporting us while we were there too. We had an amazing time. But again, like I said, I will save those stories. And so we're back together on the full episode of the podcast next week. Let me tell my friends, of course, you can find the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, or your favorite podcast platform of choice. I think we're on Pandora now. I want to say iHeartRadio podcast, and there's Blue in the background, my dog. And we've been really we had a great we had a lot more following, we had more bit of a growth when we were in South by. So thank you all to our new listeners. Again, if you're new to the show, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. We really do appreciate all you guys and your support. But yeah, guys, please follow us on your favorite podcast platform of choice, and of course on our YouTube page, youtube.com/Midway Avenue Productions. Now we have our full video show video element of the show on our YouTube, and more to come, guys. We're still in the thick of spring with some amazing movies to cover and review for you all, and a lot more that we haven't seen yet. And we're so close, guys. We are almost here to my favorite season, which is the summer movie season. Of course, I can't wait. I'm so hyped. But thank you all for joining this week. And of course, all the support you've been giving us on the podcast so far. Like I said, guys, I have three movies for you all to review for you all this week. And I'm going to start with an order that I saw, which is Death of a Unicorn from A24. You can see I'm wearing the shirt. I can't really see it, but the the pretty unicorn horn shirt that we got from the screening. On the back, it said, I was gored at South by Southwest, which is really cool. So it's kind of one of those exclusive things you can only get at South by Southwest. But let's get into it, shall we? Let me pull up my good old visual for you all. And here we go. There we go. Look at that. I am getting the hang of it, folks. Slowly and surely. Death of a Unicorn is from A24. They're pretty, the industry, they've taken the industry by storm with all their amazing filmmaking, whether it's from Safdie brothers, Barry Jenkins, Greta Gerwig, you name it. Some of my favorite movies the past couple of years have been A24 movies, and this is definitely one I think a lot of people are going to be talking about. Death of a Unicorn follows when a man and his daughter accidentally hit and kill a unicorn with their car. His boss tries to exploit the creature's miraculous creative properties with horrific results. Dun, 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 dun. That was my awful sound effect. Jeez, forgive me. Please. Death of a Unicorn. What can I say? Am I at the reaction that you probably saw? Or if you haven't, the best way to pitch Death of a Unicorn is if Jurassic Park snorted a ton of pixie dust, this would be it. It is basically Jurassic Park with unicorns. we did not go to the screening of the premiere of this one originally because we were going to, and then we got invited to a really cool pre-premiere party for The Accountant 2, which both these movies were on the same day. And unfortunately, Death of the Unicorn premiere was happening during the party we got invited to. So we did, however, really cool. Myself and Nick's lovely fiance Kaylin saw the little red carpet. We saw Paul Rudd, Jenna Ortega, and Will Poulter, and then we were off to our party. So a little bit the kind of rivals of the red carpet. I say this though, first and foremost, Will Poulter, man, I gotta say, what a sweetheart. I mean, I've been watching him since We're the Millers and, of course, Guardians of the Galaxy. Great actor. What a sweetheart. I mean, South by Southwest, there's a red carpet to the front of the theater with a Paramount on Congress, and all these fans were kind of there for either just for the festival or they're kind of there to see the kind of just regular people who were walking by. And he really stopped at every person that was a fan in the fan section. Selfies, handshakes, taking pictures, signing autographs. And at one point, the publicist was like, "Hey man, we gotta go." Well, he goes, "I got a few more minutes." What a sweetheart. And again, he went everyone he talked to, looked in the eyes. "Oh, how's it going? Nice to meet you. What's your name?" But what a sweetheart. And I felt like, again, you seeing that makes me kind of like make more of a fan of him. And just again, he went down every person in that line, and he was like just talking to them and looking in their eyes, kind of made them feel kind of like very seen. Paul Rudd did the same thing, but kind of more in a hurry because again, he's one of the main stars of the movie. Jenna Ortega did the same thing, but Will Poulter, I did see he spent a lot more time than his co-stars. Again, not a competition, of course, but it was really cool to see that. I'm definitely a fan of his, and definitely more of a fan now. So I want to shout out Will Poulter for being just really kind to all the fans that were waiting for him at the red carpet premiere. Death of Unicorn, like I said, go back to that main topic. This movie is bonkers wild. It is gory. It is very bloody. It is very violent. And it's really funny, too. Like I said, it's definitely a more comedic, cosmic horror version of Jurassic Park. And you know me, I'm not a Jurassic Park fan at all. Any of the movies, the whole franchise itself. But I remember we were waiting in line for Accountant 2 when this movie got out. And people were very mixed. People were like, it was fine. And our friend Seth liked it. He didn't love it, but he liked it a lot. And then people we met like, yeah, it was cool, I guess, sure. And I was like, okay. And I went to the screening really early the next day because we were only playing twice at the festival. And I went to the very early screening that they had at the Hyatt in Austin. And the line for that was absurd. It was like a couple hours. I got there pretty early. But again, hearing what I heard, I was like, oh, okay, sure. You know what, guys? I had a great time with this movie. I really did. Like I said, it's bonkers. It's cosmic horror. I'm definitely more of a horror fan. I like the hybrid genre, of course, like a sci-fi with fantasy and horror. Like I'm a sucker for hybrid of movies nowadays and genre. And the movie, like I said, the movie itself, it's dark. It's really dark, despite being really funny. The kills are brutal and over the top. The puppetry when it was there definitely worked. I will say, I think a lot of complaints I've been hearing about it since the festival now has been premiering to other screenings. Now it's premiering tomorrow worldwide. That is. The CGI in this is really bad. I gotta be honest with you. Listen, I have a lot of admiration and respect for CGI visual effects artists. The CGI in this was pretty bad, and I gotta say, probably not surprising. It is A24. A24 is more known for like grounded, not so. Definitely visual, stylistic movies for sure, but not in the realm of like a movie like this, which is like really heavy fantasy. So I don't think they really know how to like utilize their VFX and CGI artists pretty well. Because CGI, it's very noticeable, but when it's not CGI, the puppetry looks pretty cool. And the director, Alex Sharfman, did a Q&A at their mic screening. He was saying that, yeah, we use puppetry when we can, but a lot of it is CGI. And again, all due respect to the CGI VFX artists, CGI in this is pretty bad. And I think a lot of people are complaining about that, again, which is a very hard, task in the film industry and TV industry. But yeah, CGI is pretty bad. But like there's a scene where I think some of the close-ups, I think some of like when the characters are either close to or touching unicorns, definitely, I think you can definitely see the pairing of puppetry to CGI, but you definitely tell at times which is which, and that's like a good knock at points for that. To me, the cast in this is great. I mean, from Paul Rudd and Ortega, who I think were the main two leads, who are great. I think this is probably my favorite Jenna Ortega performance. I think she's been great in good things I've seen her in. But to me, I was like, oh, I see the hype up behind her now. And Taya Leone, Richard E. Grant, Anthony Carrigan, who I love as Noah Hank from Barry, love seeing him more stuff. And Will Poulter. Will Poulter, no doubt about it, steals this movie. He is so funny, and people were walking out of the premiere at South by. We were in line for the count. They were saying, Will Poulter, man, he's so good in this. He's so good in this. Like, I can't wait to see it. And they were right. He's so funny. He's very charming, despite him playing a nepo kind of like privileged, spoiled brat. He has some really funny one-liners or jokes where I was like, my man, what are you doing? And it's so kind of absurd, but the absurdity of it all is really funny. But yeah, he had me cracking up, and he's definitely a scene stealer in this. Kind of how he was even in We're the Millers. He definitely has a good knock for comedy, and he definitely has a good showcase here. Taylor Leone's great. I've been watching her since Family Man, of course, Bad Boys, and my favorite movies of hers is Tower Heist. She's good in it because again, it's very Knives Out slash. I'm gonna say now I loaded down. More Knives Out for sure because most of the characters are despicable. There's like one or two decent characters in this. For the most part, very despicable, like most of the characters in the Knives Out franchise. Paul Rudd, I do like seeing Paul Rudd kind of playing this like not spooked, but very kind of like not by spooked, where he's kind of just like all over the place, kind of like, oh my gosh, guys, I'm kind of used to seeing more like comic collector movies, comic collector roles recently, but when he's kind of doing like the over the top, like very Looney Tunes esque, I like seeing Paul Rudd like that, and he's really funny in this. And to me, I really, really did like the father-daughter dynamic of the movie. Like, it definitely is one of the hearts and definitely the big part of the movie, kind of like the emotional core behind the movie. And I thought him and Jenna Ortega had great chemistry. I love how kind of like they're so opposite. Like, he's more the business side guy, dad more kind of the strict whatever. He's more kind of the free spirited, like art history student, where it's kind of very just different sides of kind of like the spectrum of like creative, and he's more business heavy and she's more creative. But it definitely, their chemistry definitely worked, and you definitely believe that they're a father and daughter duo. And Anthony Carrigan he plays the butler that's so verbally abused by this family who are just like so mean to him, and the shit that they make him go through in this is like, poor guy, get the guy a break. Like, he's only kind of like probably one of the most decent people in this movie, and you're just treating him like shit. And I'm blanking on the other actress who played the other butler. Is her name Shaw? Sorry, Jessica Hines. I think Jessica Hines is the other butler, and she's kind of like very polar opposites of like, she's more kind of like the muscle, where Anthony Carrigan's character is more the kind of like the pushover butler or employee, whatever. And also too, I really like that the movie itself. I'm a sucker for movies kind of like are in like a remote island, remote cabin, and the movie itself has a pretty tight script when it comes to like one location, and I love that. I'm like, ooh, I kind of like, you kind of feel like the claustrophobic of it all, and you feel claustrophobic, kind of feel like trapped. Also, I'm a sucker for films that have tight script with one location, and it for sure definitely has it. Richard E. Grant is very good at playing the sinister, kind of like, I don't know, like this really like up his own ass billionaire that thinks he knows everything but kind of doesn't, and it kind of shows of like, hey, like, even though you're definitely doing good things in pharmaceutical, but also it's like, hey man, you're also kind of like thinking about yourself and not really anyone else at the same time. It's kind of like he's a weird fine line between the two, but the cast overall just definitely works, and I definitely kind of see that. Again, sucker for a good ensemble piece, and I think this is definitely one of the more enjoyable ensemble pieces I've seen from a movie in quite a while. But yeah, guys, Will Poulter, man, eyes on him. It's really funny. And even when I'm watching the movie, I'm like, it kind of felt like an Edgar Wright film with like a mix of like Spielberg and Ridley Scott. And it's funny, I think after during the Q&A, someone asked him, like, what are your inspirations? He goes, Spielberg for sure, Ridley Scott. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Watching the movie, I'm like, I see the inspiration, I see the comparison. I'm like, okay, for sure. But also, there's very kind of funny quick cuts and very kind of like the humor reminded me a lot of Edgar Wright. So I think Alex Sharpman did a good job kind of like paying homage to the filmmakers that inspired him. But I definitely saw a lot of Edgar Wright, Spielberg, and Ridley Scott in this movie. But yeah, the movie, again, I do think towards the end it's a little kind of like, okay, I guess whatever, sure, a little like, all right. But again, it's definitely more of a fantasy movie. That's what fantasy movies kind of are, like kind of a little bit far-fetched, but again, really the fantastical cosmic of it all. And I think when you definitely blend a comedy with cosmic horror and fantasy, I think this movie is pretty damn funny. I definitely liked it a lot. I give this movie honestly a 7.5 out of 10. I had a good time with it. When I first saw it, I was like, okay, that was kind of it's definitely weird. It's definitely a weird movie for sure. Don't get me wrong. But I had a good time watching it, and I don't think it's getting the best reception right now as the movie's being played to the public. Which again, I can see the flaws for sure, but as a movie in enjoyment level, I had a fun time watching this movie. So yeah, I'm giving this movie a solid 7 out of 10. Definitely worth watching in my opinion. But also, I haven't really seen a movie from A24 like this, with like in the hybrid of the cosmic and the comedy, cosmic horror and the comedy and the fantasy. I'm like, good for A24, kind of still taking those ambitious risk in filmmaking and also genre filmmaking. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this does. I don't think it's going to do very well. You know, I had a convo with Nick recently about this when we saw a movie, I think either at South by or recently, where like we don't think A24 has the same pull the way it used to. And it's definitely hard, you know, staying on top. I think A24, kind of the MCU at one point, where like they had just had a hit after hit after hit after hit. And now I think they're kind of like not slowing down, but like there's more misses. They're a little bit more inconsistent more inconsistent now than they were maybe a couple years ago. But enjoyment level, I think this is one of my more favorite recent of A24 movies. But wait till you hear our review for Friendship down the road. That's gonna be a fun one to review. Little tease. But yeah, guys, I'm looking forward to seeing how this movie does. Also, let us know in the comments below in the review section. Just like Death of the Unicorn, are you a fan of this movie? Did you not like it? Did you hate it? Let us know. We want to hear from you guys because your feedback truly means the world to us. All right, guys, transitioning now into the film that I saw when we got back from South by Southwest, which is a very different movie, and this is going to be Sony Picture Classics' The Penguin Lessons, a movie that I think got pretty good reviews out of TIFF. I think it premiered at TIFF this past fall, so in September. So The Penguin Lessons, based on a true story, follows an Englishman who experiences personal and political changes after adopting a penguin during a turbulent time in Argentina's history. And I believe it takes place during 1976, during a pretty pivotal time during Argentina's history. I'll be honest with you guys, didn't watch any of the trailers, didn't watch any of the marketing, knew that it premiered at TIFF, and that was really about it. And our good friend Nina was, hey, you seen The Penguin Lessons at the press screening last week? And I was like, I wasn't planning on it, but you know what? I got to give more films like this that I'm not, familiar with or under the radar, and, definitely indie films like this more of a chance. I think I definitely got to do my part and support indie film, again, spread the word about indie low-budget films like this. Guys, this movie is very charming, and it's very sweet. And may I say, very emotional. If you ask Nino, him and I were like, wow, we were kind of caught off guard how emotional this movie was and how it got us. This movie is very sweet. It's very gentle. And the movie itself, to me, it's a story about the message of like the importance of being kind to one another and the importance of open-mindedness of like, we all come from different backgrounds, different experiences, and different walks of life. And when you can share like some kind of ounce of kindness with one another, it goes a long way. And opening your heart, opening your mind to, kindness and generosity and respect, it goes a long way. And I think this movie really hits home of like why you never know what someone's going through or what they've been through. And a simple hello or a simple like, hey, how's it going, goes a long way. And also too, adopting a new mindset of like, hey, maybe you try something new, which is like getting a pet or trying a new hobby or moving somewhere new. It's the importance of kind of open-mindedness to different and maybe new experiences that you might were fearful of. And I think this movie also has a commentary on I said this in my theater reaction. I think us guys, and I know a lot of guys in my life, or who I met in my life, who didn't want a pet, refused to get a pet, Then I'm getting a pet, whether it's a dog, a cat, a fish, a bird, whatever, maybe a penguin like in this movie. And it's the unexpected bond between a guy and an animal that the guy didn't want. And it reminded me a lot of Ed O'Neill's character, Jay, from Modern Family, who didn't want Stella. And then he loves Stella so much, like his little baby girl, as he says. And I think I met enough guys in my lifetime so far that said, I'm not getting a cat, I'm not getting a dog, are you crazy? And then they just absolutely fell in love with the pet, and it's their pet. It's kind of like unspeakable bond between the two of them. And again, I don't see that most with the women or other people. I definitely see it more with men, and I think this movie definitely has a commentary on like after a while the pet that you didn't want, the pet that the guy didn't want, end up loving it. And Steve Coogan, who I think is just a brilliant actor, I think he's super underrated as an actor too. He can do comedy, he can do drama, he can do anything. I think he's really doing a balance of both comedy and drama. I think he's just phenomenal in this. He's brilliant, and I haven't seen him in a movie in quite some time, so it was kind of fun. It was fun seeing him on the big screen. I'm trying to think, what was the last movie I saw Steve Coogan in? I remember I love him in Other Guys, one of my personal favorites between me and my dad. We love that movie so much. And I'm trying to think, the last movie I saw, he was in Joker for All They Do. I mean, a very small role. And again, as you probably heard on the podcast, me and Nick are defenders of that movie. One of the very few, really rare people that actually like that movie. But I haven't seen him in a leading role or a major role like this in quite some time. So seeing him on the big screen made me kind of feel very happy. And he does have this beautiful arc to his character and what he goes through. And I thought how the movie unfolds very well, seeing his kind of progression as a character from kind of like neglectful and kind of, broke into him being more accepting and being more involved with his new job in Argentina, his career, the people around him. That's kind of like Mr. You're kind of like almost like a Scrooge from Christmas Carol, and he kind of like finds his way in this movie. And also kind of reminded me a little bit of Paul Giamatti's character from the Holdovers movie that I absolutely love. I think it's Paul Hunnam. That's the character he plays in Holdovers, Paul Giamatti. And I saw a lot of similarities also given the both 1970s era, but very similar kind of like the way they kind of spoke up to their students and to the people, their fellow faculty or whatever. How they kind of like saw the world very bitter. And as time went on in the movie, you saw how like they very kind of just adapted to their new life and kind of just was very more willing to kind of like accept people that they were very kind of like writing off. And the film does a very beautiful job of that. And also too, I gotta give Sony Pictures Classics for really kind of believing in a movie like this and making this movie a theatrical release. Guys, you're gonna probably be tired of me at this point, but please go out and support indie films like this. This could have been a Netflix and Hulu or Amazon Prime movie easily, but I'm really happy that Sony has Sony Pictures Classics, Universal has Focus Features, Disney's 20th Century Studios has Searchlight. WB has New Line Cinema. I mean, I can go on and on about it. Paramount used to have Paramount Classics. I think it's Miramax for them. It's one of their smaller indie label. But I really did give props to Sony Pictures Classics for really investing in a movie like this, of this scale, at the lower scale that is, of this budget that it could have been just forgotten about. It could have been easy streaming movie, but seeing this with a crowd definitely kind of made me feel happy about the future of cinema, and also kind of in the right direction of bringing movies like this back. I think this movie probably would have crushed at the box office maybe a long time ago, maybe a couple years ago, where like it probably would have a huge like more legs, I would say. It's definitely more targeted to a more older audience. I think I'll be honest, me and Nina were the youngest people in the theater for sure. But again, we still had a good time watching it, and it was a very pleasant surprise. Again, I didn't know nothing about it, and I love going to movies blind like this, kind of knowing nothing and being surprised and being kind of like touched emotionally and touched in a good way, very positively or inspirationally. And I think this movie definitely did a good job kind of doing that. So I would highly recommend everyone seeing this movie on the big screen if you can. Again, like I say, it's really important to support indie filmmaking like this and lower budget films. I think the box office more than ever needs films like this. Sean Baker had a great speech when he won his four Oscars for Anora, that we need movies like this for more adult, quote unquote, mature audiences that kind of remind you like the importance of filmmaking and storytelling in cinema. So I hope this movie does very well. I'm looking forward to seeing how this does in the box office too. I'm gonna definitely be a champion of this movie for sure. Definitely my top 10 of the year so far. We'll see how we'll see where it ends up at the end of the year. But I'm gonna give The Penguin Lessons a solid 8 out of 10. I definitely enjoyed myself watching this movie. It's a bit long at times, I would say. The things I was kind of felt the pace was a bit off in the beginning and maybe towards the middle, but overall I thought they kind of just had it. Definitely kept my interest and could definitely hit the emotional strings for sure. And speaking of holdovers, it reminded me a lot of the films of like Gus Van Sant and Alexander Payne. And I was like, oh yeah, I see the holdover. I see a little bit of Good Will Hunting. I see a little bit of this movie, blah, 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 blah. And it's one of those movies that I feel like I haven't seen in a while on a big screen. So again, the friendly reminder of like, again, seeing films like that on the big screen with an audience. And I'm really glad that I went in blind with this one because I had a really good time with it. And I hope more people see this movie. I hope people see this movie either opening weekend or word of mouth. But yeah, I'll definitely be championing this movie to everyone I meet. Hey, you see Penguin Lessons? I'm definitely going to be supporting this movie as much as I can. So hope it gets somewhat good buzz and around the box office. So yeah, guys, check out the Penguin Lessons, which is also in theaters this weekend. Alrighty, my friends, as we are concluding this triple feature review roundup episode, I'm going to end with the explosive one, the banger, as we say, and that is David Ayers and Jason Statham, the man, the myth, the legends, A Working Man. Their second collaboration since The Beekeeper about a year ago, I want to say. Boy, oh boy. If you saw our reactions to all our social media stuff we put on Instagram or TikTok, you name it, we got a lot to say about this one, and we should just dive right into it, shall we? This is going to be a fun one to review. A Working Man follows Levin Cade, who left his profession behind to work construction and to be a good dad to his daughter. But when a local girl vanishes, he's asked to return to the skills that made him a mythic figure in the shadowy world of counterterrorism. This movie kicks all, and I mean all, kinds of freaking ass. This movie is, excuse my language, fucking awesome. This movie is so much fun. Listen, I'm a sucker for over-the-top actions. I love John Wick. I love The Equalizer. I love the Taken movies. Oh, the Taken one I like. Taken 2 is fine. 3 is kind of eh. But you name it. Liam Neeson, Keanu Reeves, Jason Statham, I'm a sucker for these kind of over-the-top, like ultra-violent action films, revenge movies, as you'll say. This movie is just bonkers, but it's so much fun. It is 2 hours of non-stop Statham kicking ass and being a badass. I mean, come on now. What more can you ask for in a Statham-led action movie? Let's be real now. Have I always liked Statham-led action movies? No, there's some that I think are stinkers. And you guys seem to like our Expendables 4 reaction, and that movie me and Nick cannot even stand at all. The movie was bad. And there's some, like, what's that one you did? I think Parker I liked. Homefront, I think it was kind of okay, whatever. This movie is so much fun. It's over the top. Like I said, it's gritty. It's very violent. I definitely am so for more of these Statham / David Ayer collaborations. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't the biggest fan of The Beekeeper. It was fine. I think it was kind of surprised a lot of people. Like, wow, it actually was pretty good. Because I think the trailers were kind of like, this looks a little kind of too silly and too convoluted, and it definitely is. I had a few issues with The Beekeeper where I was like, the story is very messy, and it's kind of like, and you know, probably on the podcast, I'm a big David Ayer fan. I'm a big David Ayer fan for sure. I mean, Training Day Hero, End of Watch, I love. Sabotage, a guilty pleasure of mine. Fury, I love. And as you all know, I know I'm guilty of this. I'm a defender of Suicide Squad 2016, even though we all know that wasn't really his real version. That wasn't his cut. WB, James Gunn, please, if you're listening, probably not, but if you are one day, please release his Ayer cut. I want to see his movie. I know he has a copy of his movie. I see it on not Hot Ones, Real Ones with John Berthnall. He has a copy of it, and everyone said it's a way better movie. David Ayer, man, when you're ready, my friend, I've been defending you for so many years now. To rob that Ayer cut, my man, I'm ready for it. I read your script. Definitely a different movie than we saw in the theatrical version. But again, I still like the theatrical version for what it was. People were like just like hating on it, and I wasn't the biggest BVS fan. I have a special place in my heart for the theatrical Suicide Squad, but I would love to see his version of Suicide Squad. But yeah, guys, I'm definitely so down for them, all these collaborations. If they do 3 or 4 more, I'm in the theater. I'm there day one. No doubt about it. I definitely enjoyed this movie a lot more than The Beekeeper. I found it more gritty. I found it more like had a better balance of the action and the drama. I thought the Beekeeper at times was kind of too over the top of like, look at this. Don't get me wrong, this one's for sure over the top in so many different ways, but the Beekeeper in a way was kind of almost like a parody of action movies at times. And my dog is coughing because I'm eating or drinking too fast. But this one had more depth to it, this movie. And, I'll definitely say this movie is definitely a combination of Taken / The Equalizer, more heavy on Taken for sure because of the whole finding a local girl who was the daughter of Michael Pena, who Statham works for, and I don't know. I thought the story was definitely more enjoyable this time around than The Beekeeper, and I kind of like the story too. Of again, it's similar story. I mean, like both retired, black ops, hitman, assassin, blah blah blah, whatever. But I found the story to be more enjoyable and more engaging than I did with The Beekeeper. I thought when they brought in like Jeremy Strong and Josh Hutcherson, I was like, okay, I'm kind of losing the interest in this movie. I'm kind of getting bored with this. It's kind of too dumb and too silly. And this movie definitely has some silly points in the movie for sure. Don't get me wrong, but I know I had more time. I felt more engaged watching this one. And yes, is the movie corny and cheesy at times? Hell yeah, it is. But you know what? It's the good kind of cheesy and corny. You're like, oh hell yes, give me more. And it's also kind of throwback to those like 80s and 90s action movies that I watch. And speaking of which, this was written by Statham's boy Stallone. But I'm pretty sure David Ayer did a page one rewrite or added more to the screenplay. But so I think Stallone also wrote the movie Homefront for Statham too. But I think David Ayer did more. I think the rewrite or whatever. But Stallone is still credited as a producer and writer. And I'll tell you what, when his name, because Stallone's not in this movie at all. But when his name popped up as written and produced by Stallone, our audience at the screening went crazy. Both critics and non-critics went crazy. I was like, wow, Stallone still got it, man. There's definitely an audience for his work, whether he's in acting or writing or producing or involvement. There's definitely a big love for Stallone still to this day, which is pretty cool. But cool to see Stallone still writing things for his buddy Statham. But also, you know what? This movie, the thing about the movie that I liked a lot was the brotherhood between David Harbour's character and Statham's character. Like they're both, former operatives in a war, and they're both soldiers, and the brotherhood feels real. And I will say that there's a line in the trailer that I was kind of bummed they cut out. And again, this is a trailer, it's not like a spoiler, where this line's in the movie where David Harbour's character goes, who's blind, he goes, "I'll be your weapons sommelier for the evening." Kind of rubs his hands, which is kind of really funny, which is kind of like really kind of like badass at the same time. But he goes, "Hey, got what you need right here. It's a Bluetooth like assault rifle, whatever." And they don't mention that, and the line that David Harbour says is not in the final cut, but the Bluetooth gun is still in the movie. But I was like, oh, I was hoping to see that line in the movie. I was kind of bummed that it wasn't there. I was like, oh, okay, but I got a huge kick out of it in the trailer. But I really like the chemistry between David Harbour and Statham a lot. I definitely could have used more of them together. I'm like, oh, I kind of wanted to see more of them kind of like maybe in action, maybe kind of like working side by side. But he's definitely more of like a mentor, kind of like advisor in a way in this movie. Again, both former veterans, operatives, so it's kind of like he's kind of looking after Statham. And but it would probably been cool to see David Harbour and Statham kind of just kick ass together. I think they're both like great actors. And also too, Michael Pena, a guy who I admire, Chicago guy. I love him as an actor. One of my favorite actors working today. And he's so good in the Ant-Man movies, of course. But also, I remember seeing him in End of Watch, and I was like, oh, this guy's a movie star. And I've just been a big Michael Pena fan ever since. Oh, no, even 30 Minutes or Less. I think he was so funny in that. No, what am I thinking about? 30 Minutes or Less and Tower Heist. I was like, this guy's pretty funny. Then I saw him at End of Watch, and I was like, this guy can do action, he can do drama, he can do comedy. This guy's great. Also, he's a Chicagoan like me, so I'm like, hey, even better. So I'm a big fan of Michael Pena, and I really did like the brotherhood between Michael Pena's character and Statham's character too. Definitely see that they had a huge love and respect for one another. And then when Michael Pena's daughter goes missing, you can definitely tell like the only person he can count on is Statham, and you definitely feel the bond between the two of them. And then like, hey, they're like, he gave Statham a job when he needed one the most. He's trying to Statham trying to rebuild his image as a father, a quote-unquote working man. And I love the whole dynamic between him and Michael Pena. But also, too, kind of like how I felt about Death of Unicorn, the really heart and soul of this movie too is the whole father and daughter story too, where you definitely tell like how the lengths of a parent lengths of how far a parent will go to kind of like protect their kids or and get them back if they're in danger, stuff like that. And again, that's where I felt about the whole Taken aspect of the movie. Kind of came in where I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely Taken, definitely kind of Statham's version of Taken, but you definitely feel the emotions when it comes to the father-daughter dynamics of both Michael Payne, him and his daughter, and of course Statham and his daughter, his character's daughter. It's like, oh yeah, there's definitely the emotional, not back the bond that you definitely want to root for in this movie. So for an over-the-top action movie, it has some really emotional moments, and also too, it has some really funny, I mean, like really comedic moments where I was like, oh, the comedy in this definitely works. I think the comedy in The Beekeeper try to be too hard, try to be too funny at times, where I was like, you're kind of trying too hard. But this time, I thought like the humor in this definitely worked a lot better, and I thought the nice balance of like the corniness and cheesiness, again in a good way, to like the funny comedy, to the over the top action and the grittiness, and like how nonstop badass the action and violence is. So I'm giving A Working Man a really solid, hardcore, working 8 out of 10. I had a great time with this movie. Again, I'm a sucker for those kind of like over the top action movies. So if David Ayer makes more of these movies with Statham, sign me up, guys. I'm there day one. So I hope this movie does pretty well. I think it was fun to walking out of the screening last night. Everyone was kind of buzzing. The movie was so much fun because again, it's a good popcorn flick, and I feel like this is why I go to the movies. And I'm really happy that Amazon and Amazon MGM still believes in these kind of like lower to mid tier action movies. Like they didn't break the bank. It was like 100 mil plus marketing, but this is probably like a 30-40 mil movie tops. Will definitely do well overseas as well. I think Statham definitely has a good pull overseas. I think The Beekeeper did very well. I think it was a big surprise. Like, it did very well. And also, it was a surprise hit. So I hope the same thing happens to A Working Man. I might go see it again, even maybe my dad, or maybe with my family or some friends, because it was just fun. I had a great time. I had a big smile on my face. The middle act, second act, definitely kind of feels a little bit like stale at certain times, but it wasn't one like, oh my god, get on with it, or it wasn't like kind of bored of how I was with The Beekeeper. I was like, all right guys, let's get on with it now. I'm kind of like, let's wrap it up. I had a great time. Statham kicking ass for 2 hours. I'm cool. I'm with that. But yeah, guys, check out. You have a great variety of movies this week in the theaters. You got Penguin Lessons, you got Death of a Unicorn, now you get Working Man. Go support your local theaters and your local cinema. Again, you got Mickey 17. He's out. You still got Black Bag. I heard really good. You got Novocaine. I heard really good. You have the big blockbusters like Snow White, which I haven't heard is not doing that well. But if you're a Disney fan, you might like it. I haven't seen it yet. But yeah, guys, you have a kind of variety of movies, and we're still in the spring movie season. So I hope the box office is very healthy this week with all the options, or the appetizers and the main course and the dessert. So go to the movies weekend, guys. It's fun. It's gonna be, I think, a good weekend. I know also opening day for MLB. I'm a big baseball fan, so I get it. But yeah, I'm happy that I can report on 3 movies this week on this week's review roundup that I'm all really positive about. So go to the movies, go support original filmmaking, go support indie filmmaking, go support all the filmmaking, because again, the movie theaters need us and we need them. But of course, my friends, till next time, we'll see you guys at the movies.